ये एस्ट्रोनॉट्स पेन है। स्पेस में फाउंटेन पेन, बॉल पेन कुछ नहीं चलता। तो लाखों डॉलर खर्च करने के बाद साइंटिस्ट ने ऐसा पेन इजाद किया जिससे कोई भी एंगल, कोई भी टेम्परेचर, जीरो ग्रेविटी में हम लिख सकते हैं। वन डे।
सर मेरा एक सवाल है सर। सर स्पेस में फाउंटेन पेन, बॉल पेन चलता नहीं है, तो एस्ट्रोनॉट्स ने पेंसिल का इस्तेमाल क्यों नहीं किया? लाखों डॉलर बच जाते सर।
It sounds like the ultimate genius question, right? But today, we are busting Rancho's myth once and for all.
Because using pencils in space is a lethal hazard. Wood burns easily in pure oxygen, and microscopic broken graphite leads float around in zero gravity, conducting electricity and shorting out critical spacecraft machinery.
NASA didn't spend a single dime in developing the space pen. An independent inventor named Paul Fisher spent $1 million of his own money to make the space pen. Later, NASA bought them at only $6 each.
Okay, fine, but normal pens still don't work in zero gravity, right?
Actually, who told you that a normal ballpoint pen can't work in space? Because it absolutely can.
To understand why people thought pens wouldn't work, let us look at a fountain pen. Consider this bottle as the ink reservoir. If I make a tiny hole in the cap and flip it upside down, does the water flow out smoothly?
Nope. Atmospheric pressure pushes back from below, and without an air vent at the top, a vacuum forms inside the bottle and holds the liquid in place.
Exactly. A fountain pen fixes this on Earth by having a tiny air channel in the feed to swap air for ink. But in zero gravity, once the initial ink in the nib runs out, the ink in the main reservoir just floats around. It won't travel down to the nib, and without atmospheric pressure outside the spaceship, it will leak everywhere.
The same goes for ruler balls and felt tip markers. Their water-based ink system have very low corrosive forces. Okay, so fountain pens and gel pens fail. But what makes a regular, everyday ballpoint pen different?
In 2003, an astronaut named Pedro Duque decided to test this exact thing. He took a completely normal, cheap ballpoint pen with him to outer space and wrote about 4 to 6 full paragraphs in his diary, and the pen didn't stop once.
Wait, how? There is no gravity to pull the ink down to the ball.
It's all about the chemistry of the ink. Regular ballpoint pens use oil-based ink, which is incredibly thick, highly viscous, and has massive cohesive forces, meaning the molecules tightly stick to one another.
Because the ink tube is so narrow, a physics phenomena called capillary action naturally sucks the ink tightly toward the tiny metal nib. And because the oil-based ink is so sticky, when the ball spins and pulls the first layer of ink, it literally drags the rest of the ink column right behind it like a
Wow! So if a cheap ballpoint pen works perfectly fine, why did they even bother making a space pen? Space is unpredictable. There is no stationary shop floating outside the International Space Station. If a normal pen encounters extreme temperatures, freezing cold, or a vacuum outside the ship, it stops instantly.
The Fisher Space Pen uses pressurized nitrogen and ultra-thick jelly ink so that it can write upside down, in scorching heat, in pure vacuum, and even underwater. But there is no research stating that normal ballpoint pens can't work in space. So the next time you are writing an exam, Remember that you don't need $1 million to write like an astronaut.